Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Chris here from Gaming in the Keats, and I am bringing you another 3.0 battle report. Yeah. I'm excited for this one because I'm trying out something that's something I've never done before, which is not use magic in my list. But I got wind of a very powerful build for Dread Elves, at least. I have a feeling that there's going to be some fixes from this build, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm just testing it out and see how potent it is. But yeah, I hope y'all are enjoying your weekend when this comes out. And this battle report comes out after the hot fix. So when you're watching this, it comes out after this hot fix on certain rules. But yeah, let's dive on into the lists. Alright, we're going with my good old Merry Christmas Manticore for my general. This time I did Death, Cheater, Great Weapon, Supernatural Dex, and Ring of the Obsidian Throne, so I get that nice 6-inch minimized discipline for break and panic, which I do think is pretty great on the Discipline 10. And the Extraordinary Specimen kind of helps with that because it expands the base, so it effectively expands your aura. I had to choose Death Cheater on this one. It's not, I don't think this is an expensive Manticore build, right? So Death Cheater had to be taken because Ring of the Obsidian Thrones is an artifact, and so I couldn't take like a 5-up Aegis on this Manticore. So this Manticore is just pretty beefy, 3-up, 4-up, although Alchemy will absolutely wreck this character. And then we're just rocking 2 Silent Assassins. I've been loving the Silent Assassins personally. They've been so much fun. I just love how cheap they are, and they just add these 5 extra high-quality attacks. They're great. I'm just digging them. So now we're going with a 32 big bus of spears with a Banner of Discipline, which I think is pretty important here. Again, no BSB, and we want that bus to stay. We got 15 auxiliaries just for, honestly, they're there really to just fill out my core at the moment. And they also do provide like a scoring unit because they have a standard bear in there, and they activate Scent of Blood, which we'll see in a moment. We got 5 Shadow Riders to be annoying. Then we have 25 Temple Militants, the Dancers of Yema version, so they have a 5-up Aegis in close combat, and they're Weapon Masters. So, and something that's also very fun for them is they get first strike +1 attack. So the first round of combat they get an extra attack, which is pretty great. And they do count now, with the hotfix change, they are Diab Warfare. So yeah, so they activate that reroll charge range for combo charges, which is fantastic. I also use the Shadow Riders for that purpose, if I can, unless they need to die for the cause. But yeah, everything has, basically almost everything in my army except for the Dread Acolytes can get a reroll charge if the right circumstances in play. So then we're going to the meat and the potatoes of the army. We're going into 2 units of 6 Thunderpack, and these guys are nasty now. Like, they lost their light troops thing, which I'm fine with. I never played them with light troops. This is the first time I've used Thunderpack, and 2 big units of 6. There's 4 attacks per beast. We don't talk about the Lash Masters because they're just like strength 3, AP 0, but no, that's still extra attacks, right? And then they get, they get Devastating Charge +1 AP, I think? Yeah, +1 AP, I think. So, but the thing that makes them really good right now, is there's a combination here that you'll see in a moment. So we also go with 10 Dread Acolytes. Again, I've been loving this unit. I also love that they've been able to take a Standard Bearer and a Musician. Musician's great to redirect charges, and the Standard Bearer just helps them. I can run them on a flank independently with the Banner of Discipline. I'm much more comfortable doing that now. And this unit, again, like the Thunderpack and the Dread Acolytes and the Temple Militants, they all put out a lot of attacks. And then when you add in the assassins with the spear, and then you add in the final piece of the puzzle here, the Divine Altar, you get a nice 6-inch aura of Fury for Divine Altar of Nob, and that goes in the spears to add this big brick that's hopefully holds. And you get that 6-inch aura for Fury, and then 12 inches for Temple, so that would be your Temple Militants and your Dread Acolytes. And then here's the coup de grace here, is that as long as the Thunder Pack are within Inspiring Presence range or Commanding Presence, whatever it's called, of the Beastmaster, they get Dying Blow. So quite frankly, I don't care if they're attacking last, they still get all of their attacks. And they have Hatred, which pairs really well with Fury if they're within 6 inches of the altar. So that is, I mean, who needs magic, right? So let's see if I can pull this combo off. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to give it a go. And the list comes in at 4,000 points on the nose. Love it. All right, for my friend Vamps in Maryland's Vampire Covenant. He's playing an asshole vampire count on a skeletal steed. So this guy is like the, Crimson Rage, reroll hits with Fury anyway. He has a 1-up, 4-up, I think. Or maybe he has a 2-up, 4-up with the Halberd. James, you'll have to let me know. And he has Vorpal Binding, so successful saves you make against him have to be rerolled. He has a Potion of Swiftness, so he can be faster than Elves. And Gates of the Netherworld, so he can get that extra heal off. So this guy's mean. Next we have just a Necromancer, Wizard Master of Evo, great. Whispers of the Veil, Course of the Damned, Spectral Blaze, and Soul Blight. And the Mimic Cloak, so you get the stand behind rule, so you don't have to place the Necromancer in the front rank. My opponent is trying out Soul Blight. I've also tried out Soul Blight, and again, it's one of those spells that I think looks good on paper. It seems very scary, but time and time again so far, I've just had it kind of do like 1 or 2 wounds on targets. I haven't had it wreck something yet, but who knows. Then he's got a nice little Barrow King Captain attached on Skeletal Steed with Kingslayer and Talisman of the Void for the nice extra channel. And you'll probably see the trend in a moment if you haven't paused to look at the list. We got 33 ghouls, 6 bat swarms. Oh my god, bat swarms. I really hate them right now. That's just a massive health pool that can be regrown. And they give you all these like minuses, they're distracting and they have AP and a bunch of attacks, and it's just like, ugh, gross. 24 skeletons with the sheltering standards, because that's cheeky. 13 Barrow Knights, so that's where the Barrow King and the Vampire count go with the Banner of Speed, so that Night Bus is now really nasty. A Dark Coach for extended chassis to do a nice little March Bubble thing, and a nice little single model there, although that is expensive. A Cadaver Wagon now, that's pretty fun. And so every model within, 6 inches of it gets a 5 Fortitude in the first round of combat. 8 Spectral Hunters, just there as light troops, and nothing too crazy there, no spells. And then 3 Phantom Hosts, again for chaff. And the cool thing, again, with the Phantom Host, is still, what is that, still 15 health points? Maybe, 5, 10, 15, or maybe 6, or maybe 18. I think there's 6 health points a piece, so per model, so it's 18 health points in that unit with a 3-up Aegis save. That can be regrown. It's just gross. And they're distracting because they're swarms, so all of a sudden these bat swarms and these Phantom Host units, they're very effective because you don't actually get your opponent isn't going to run through them most likely in one turn depending on what charges them. And so that might prevent, for example, your opponent from picking up a primary point for chaffing and then allows you the counter charge. So swarms, I think, are pretty hot right now. Yeah. So pre-game settings, we did the season pack. So we chose Ancient Fortifications. We rolled it, and so you get a nice. We had 2 impassables in this list, so it makes this nice sort of chokehold point right in between the center here. Hills aren't as powerful, I think, as they used to be, because you don't get that reroll charge. So it's more for just like advantage in line of sight and cover. But yeah, we have the ruins in the middle, the ancient fortifications, and so once you touch the ruins, you roll a dice and see what sort of bound spell the ruins give you, and then the closest caster to the ruins gets that bound spell. So that's a pretty fun little side addendum thingy. Or extra element to the game. And then we got, so our primary was hold the ground. So basically in this hold the ground, it's, you have the most expensive scoring unit within 12 inches of the center scores it after game's turn 3 and on, right? So unfortunately for my opponent, which you might have noticed now, my spear unit is my most expensive scoring unit, so that comes in at 510, and then his ghouls only come in probably at around 475. So there's almost it's going to be really tough for my opponent to win the primary. To make matters maybe worse for my opponent, so I got capture the flags for my secondary, which means I just have to have more flags on the field than my opponent. Which I think can be difficult depending on the list, but then my opponent's secondary was demonstrate superiority, so my opponent has to take out that spear unit, which is my most expensive scoring unit. And I think that's just going to be very challenging when I have so many other threats on the board. So, you'll see how my opponent deals with that. And then for our deployment, we did mutual encroachment. So we have 12 inches up and then 6 inches pinched in on either side. And the fun thing about this scenario is that we can deploy up to 2 of our core scoring units fully on our own half of the battlefield within any field, forest, or ruins. So theoretically, I could deploy, I guess, the spears are just not going to fit into this ruins. Like, that's just not going to happen. And the only real scoring unit that I'd put here would be, it'd be from core, so it could only be the spears or the auxiliaries. And so, no, I'm not going to put the auxiliaries there. So it's kind of, and then my opponent really didn't have any good options for that either, given the deployment and the lists. So like, we never actually used this in the game, but I think it's, that could be cheeky. So pregame thoughts on the macro side of things, like given the primary and secondary and limited range damage from my opponent, like I really get to dictate the pace of the game because of my list. I can normally, I would say, like with the secondary where it's like hold the center, you probably want to go second, but in this case, like I don't really care. My opponent has to come at me anyway. So I'm just going to try and go first and take board control and just let my opponent try and deal with those big units of Thunderpack and the Dancers and the Spears like all at once. So, and I don't need to be super aggressive to win this match, actually. I can just sit and chill. And let my opponent just throw units in front of me to chaff me. So I'm not too worried about it. And my list outfights his, aside from that asshole vampire. I can't let that night bus charge, because that will hurt. But other than that night bus, which I think is pretty... I at least have like a few pieces that can get in the way of it. And I'm not giving up primary points because it's a different primary, so I'm not losing, aside from units, I'm not losing the primary for it, so I think I can deal with the night bus. I do need to deploy compact in order to make use of all the synergies in my list, which again kind of works for me in this bottleneck situation. So the only major threat is really that vampire. Like, if the vampire moved outside of the night bus, then that night bus is just way less potent. And then micro things, yeah, I really have to... So my plan is to just keep the Thunderpack like on either side of the spears, and then have the Dancers and the Temple units more further out wide. And And then, yeah, the Thunder Pack do need to be babysat by the general, which is a little annoying, but still, like, I don't need to play the general aggressively. And I can just have the general give a nice little leadership buff and then charge in, combo charge when I need to. And then I need to focus on stopping Spectral Blades on the ghouls or the bat swarms, because Spectral Blades on swarms is just so brutal. Yeah, and on ghouls. I mean, good God, with the hatred, with like when they get their innate second round of hatred and, oh God, and poison with Spectral Blades, like ghouls with Spectral Blades is pretty gross. So I do think this is a green matchup for me. It is unstable because it's based around combat. My list fights. It doesn't do anything else. And so when when you're in combat, there's always a chance where things just don't go your way because of luck. You're rolling dice, and that's the nature of it. So I do feel like it is a good matchup for me, but can be unstable. All right, deployment time. From left to right on my side, I've got my... Oh, I should mention that my opponent and I really went back and forth on where we deployed. So originally, I could have decided to drop, see if I can get the +2, but I also was very determined to kind of find out where that night bus was going to go and then deploy my chaff piece accordingly. So I dropped the spears with the altar first. My opponent deployed with, I think, spirit hosts first. Then I dropped my first unit of Thunder Pack. My opponent deployed ghouls. Then I deployed my second unit of Thunder Pack. My opponent did bat swarms. Then I did my auxiliaries, and now they can march and shoot and don't have to take dangerous terrains from the water because they have light armor. Only heavy armor takes DTs, metal armor takes DTs from water now, which is great. And then my opponent deployed the cadaver wagon with the skeletons. And so I was kind of forced to maybe bait out one of the light troops drops or the night bus drop. So I decided, all right, well, I'm going to deploy, like I have a pretty good idea where he's going to go, but I don't know. So I decided to deploy my dancers this way. Then my opponent deployed his chariot. And then after the chariot, I decided, all right, well, now it's going to be light troops again, so I'm going to put my, stop the chariot, is put the chaff here, I guess, and see what happens. Like, centrally, I can go vanguard around, which is what you see me do. And then my opponent deployed his light troops, and then I decided to do the dread acolytes, to have some more light troops on the other side, and they may have to die for the cause on the night bus, but then my opponent finally decided, you know what, no, I'm going to drop the night bus on this side, which I'm very happy with because now I have like my dedicated chaff piece on this side. So, there you have it. From left to right. Yeah, I think I already told it. Bat swarms, skeletons with cadaver wagon, ghouls, spirit hosts, the thing, the chariot, dark coach, the light troops, spectral hunters, and then the night bus with the vampire and the attached Barrow King. Luckily, that still gave me the +2 to go first, and so I got it, which is great. So I pulled out the Shadow Riders all the way to the right, outside of charge range. I decided to turn the Dancers of Yema facing out this way I just get in the way of the night bus if he starts to come around. And if he really does, then I can chaff and then push the Dancers up with an assassin in there. Thunder Pack's coming around this way. I'm using my demon models with some Corsair models to proxy the 40 by 60 bases. I move up I don't march the spear bus. I'm just chilling right outside the ruins. Again, outside of charge ranges right now. The Manticore comes up, giving that nice 12-inch Beastmaster aura. I start pushing up with the Thunder Pack on this side. Auxiliaries march up, no shots available. And then light troops, I'm able to pull the Dread Acolytes, just zoning this side. depending on whether or not he wants to move the bat swarms in. Nothing happens in magic, nothing happens in shooting, and it's my opponent's turn. Alright, on to my opponent's turn. My opponent shifts his line, as you can see. He's kind of boxed in here with that skeleton unit, which will come into play later. And I think my opponent and I discussed how to mitigate that issue after the game. But for now, he's kind of stuck there. The Necromancer moves into the ghouls to get within Soul Blight range. Bats just kind of, try and zone as best as they can around this left side here from the Dread Acolytes. He puts his light troops right in front of my Shadow Riders, his Spectral Hunters, and just outside of charge range from the Dancers. He is outside of charge range from the Thunder Pack as well. He just made sure to be outside of 16, I believe. Because he really doesn't... I don't think my opponent really wants to take a charge from them. But at least not right now. He's being tentative here with the Night Bus. The Night Bus is sort of zoning my movement into the center. And he is now 17 inches away from me, so he actually only needs a 4 potentially to get into the Thunder Pack here. In Magic, I save all my dice to stop Soul Blight. So, yep, that's it for the turn. Okay, my turn 2. I move up as follows. So I pull the Dread Acolytes around the Impassable, trying to get as close as I can without getting into the Bat Swarm's line of sight, which is good. I don't want them to really charge me at the moment. So that's the best as I could do. Auxiliaries move up. The Thunder Pack, I'm actually pushing them up. I'm like only 12 inches away from the ghoul, so I'm just saying, like, I don't care really on this side, charge me. Manticore is just right outside the ruins. I tip my toe into the ruins here, just like forming my battle line. I back up the Thunder Pack here outside of charge range of his Night Bus. And then I had to do this with the Dancers, because he could actually see the Dancers of Yemma with his Night Bus here, and I couldn't... I could put the Shadow Riders in front of his Night Bus and see if I could advance, but that doesn't really get me anything, because then he has his Spectral Hunters to get in the way of the Dancers, and then it'll be his charge. Then the Dancers are just sitting there. So I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to back up, make sure these guys can't get out of my line of sight and come around my flank and be annoying. I'm just going to be behind him and make it so, like, if he tries to move into the space, I will certainly, I may charge him depending on whether or not he gives me a rear or flank. And then the cool thing is they'd be, there's no cool thing. I'm just holding that unit up for a turn, essentially. Everything, the Thunder Pack are out of charge range, also out of charge range from the Coach. I think the Coach could try and go for a long charge into the Spears, but I know my opponent's not going to do that. Shooting, nothing. These guys finally get into range, but they're shooting at Bat Swarms, or possibly also Ghouls. I think I shot the Ghouls, and nothing happened. So, there you have it. On to my opponent's turn 2. Alright, so my opponent activates his first line of Jeff. He puts the Spirit Host right in front. Oh, I forgot to mention the spell that I rolled for the Mystic Ruins was that Living Steel? It's the +1 to hit from Alchemy. So I have that as a bound spell now on the Assassin. No, so that's the closest character to the Ruin. So yay, the Assassin has a spell. Surprise! The spell is never cast all game, because right now bound spells are pretty weak, and they're very, very easy to dispel. So just in terms of casting, but that's my opinion. But anyway, so yeah, my opponent backs up the Bat Swarms, as you can see, and and is preparing for a charge from the Dread Acolytes. He pulls out the ghouls here just to angle a little bit. He's not in charge range of the Dread Acolytes, even though they do have a very long charge range, which is nice. He's starting to shift around the skeleton bus. He pulls his Necromancer out. I think he wants to try and maybe get into a position to try and Soul Blight my Shadow Riders, or Soul Blight the Thunder Pack again, or attempt it. And then he's, lining up his counter charges, so no overruns with the Spirit Hosts, just in case I do happen to go through them. Everything from the Spirit Host, everything is in the front, so all Thunder Pack units have them in their front. And yeah, he's just positioning again. He pulls up right outside my charge range and is positioning for counter charges. The Spectral Hunters just turn around and are looking at my cheeky Shadow Riders. In Magic, I think I let Soul Blight go through, and my opponent fails to wound the Thunder Pack. It was just like a dud. And then I saved all my dice to stop. Oh, and here's what happened. No. So, maybe is it this turn? It might be this turn. I think I let maybe Whispers, or the -1 Resilience, go off on the Thunder Pack. Yeah, they are whispered right now. I can see that. Yeah, Thunder Pack are whispered. And so my opponent, I save my dice for Spectral Blades on the Bat Swarms, and my opponent actually gets Spectral Blades off on, I can't remember if this is the turn where he got it off, or it might be the ghouls again. So either way, he was able to get off both spells, and so I think he just outdiced me, and so that was a bit unlucky there. So that kind of changes my game plan a bit. So, because of the debuffs up on the Thunder Pack and Spectral Blades up, yeah, they did go off on the Bat Swarms. Up on the Bat Swarms, I decided to not charge, and instead I pulled the Dread Acolytes around to, again, threaten the flank here, just threaten units. So now I'm just forcing him to either charge me, and then I focus on stopping spells onto that unit, or just put his Bat Swarms in front of the Temple Acolytes. I reformed the auxiliaries into 5 wide now, because you can only do plus or minus 3 on your reform, and so they were 8 to start, so now I go back down to 5, which is cool. I like that. It's very simple. It just makes reforming a lot easier. Thunder Pack move up again, just threatening him. I choose to not charge the Spirit Host. I see the trap from all of his evil counter charges. And instead I just decided to move up and pull right in front of him again. His Spirit Host cannot wheel around the spears at all to hit either of the Thunder Pack units. I pulled this Thunder Pack unit back again outside of charge range, because I do not want that Night Bus charging me. And then I start pulling. Now that I see that these guys, the Spectral Hunters, have turned around, now I start marching the Dancers of Yemma outside around. Yes, they have a Flaming Banner, and yes, they're completely out of play and ineffective in this game. But that was the decision I chose to make, is sort of sacrifice their Flaming Banner and the effect on the Fortitude to just like cover one of my flanks. Like, that was a conscious decision, because I didn't feel like I really had a good option there. Okay, my opponent's turn 3. So he puts the Bat Swarms right in front of the Dread Acolytes, and just saying, like, you know what? Like, alright, they're just going to have to block the Dread Acolytes from being able to charge the flank. In this picture, I think this was taken beforehand, but I know my opponent's intention was to block the charge here, so I let him go back and put them more in front, but still keeping the front arc with the Dread Acolytes. So this isn't the most accurate position of where those Bat Swarms are. My opponent is able to finally reform his skeleton unit and still give out that 5 up Fortitude first round of combat on the Swarm unit that has 32 health points, or maybe they dropped it down to 5 HP per per swarm. So, okay, so yeah. That's like 30 health points right there with distracting for a 5-up fortitude and like a bunch of attacks that are like AP1, AP2 maybe? Not sure, I can't remember. He pulls the ghouls up just to face the Thunder Pack, because, yeah, they're going to get charged next turn most likely. But he's just preparing his positions here. And yes, he puts the he puts the spirit hosts right in front of the spears. They're not in contact with each other. The spears are just being blocked by the spirit hosts. Again, still keeping a front to this Thunder Pack, but now there's a flank charge from this one, or maybe I'm probably out of line of sight. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm out of line of sight. He can't block the Manticore from coming in. Not saying I really want to do that, but like, he's aware that the Manticore could come in, and it is a front. My opponent turns around his Spectral Hunters to look at the Shadow Riders, and then he turns his Chariot, the Dark Coach, on the hill to do any countercharging that might happen with the ghouls, depending on how many are left. And yeah, also something cheeky, he pulls his Necromancer out, and he's putting the Necromancer in position to destroy those Shadow Riders with a Soul Blight. That being said, in the magic phase, I let Soul Blight go through. It's fine, I'll just take it and kind of bank on my chances. He gets it off, I do my leadership check, I pass it, so it's 1d6 hits, and my opponent rolls a 2 on the d6 and kills one Shadow Rider. So not even enough to cause a panic. So Soul Blight just not coming through for my opponent. And then I'm able to stop. I think my opponent does get off another -1 resilience on the Thunder Pack, but then I stop Spectral Blades up on the ghouls this time. So, yeah, that's how it looks there. And now I have a lot of decisions to make. All right, decisions, and here we go. So I'm just saying, all right, let's go, Thunder Pack. I'm going to charge the ghouls. Now, I could have charged his... I could have charged the Cadaver Wagon. It was a longer charge. I think I needed a 5 on this one. Oh, and that dice represents skeletons. He has some more skeletons in the back that he regrew. But I decided I wanted to see how the Thunder Pack did against ghouls. So I just charged them in... since there's no buffs up or debuffs on the Dread Acolytes, now I'm just going to charge them into the Bat Swarms and see how they do. I also charged in my auxiliary unit into the Bat Swarms, and they failed their charge. I think they needed a 3 on the dice, maybe a 4, and they failed it. So not good, because now I don't have that extra combat res to crumble this Bat Swarm unit and to get in the way of like a counter charge maybe from the skeletons with that Cadaver Wagon in there. Yes, and I think I already mentioned I charged the Spirit Host with the Spears. I back up the Thunder Pack to just cover any counter charging shenanigans. I put the Shadow Riders right in front of the Night Bus to just die for the cause. And I just start pulling around my Dancers of Yema now to start threatening his Night Bus's flank, and now he's basically forced to use his Spectral Hunters to chaff the Dancers of Yema if he doesn't want anything bad to happen to his Night Bus. So, excuse me. On to combat. So, this is a picture of After Crumble. Look at that. I did just enough to get him down to 2 ghouls. And this was because my opponent, quite honestly, I rolled very poorly on like my 5-up armor saves. My opponent got 7 wounds through on the Thunder Pack. And remember, they have Dying Blow, so I got all my attacks. I did not care. And, yeah, I rolled poorly on my saves. Had I rolled, like, 2 saves out of 7, like, I would have crumbled the unit to a to a ghoul. But that's how it stands. So they just like nuked the ghouls. Even so, like that was nuts. And then here you can see the Dread Acolytes. This is after their reform, and this is also after Crumble. So we still got 5, 10, 14 health points left in that unit. My opponent doesn't do anything to me in return. I think he just failed the wound, quite honestly. So, yeah, Temple Acolytes not doing as much as their Thunderpack Brethrens, but nonetheless, you know, the Bat Swarms are basically doing their job. They're keeping the Temple Acolytes held up for a turn. All right, so countercharge time. The Dark Coach, charges off the hill and into the Thunderpack. And then I made a mistake here. I left a 10-inch overrun onto the Manticore, so my opponent wisely saw that and decided, well, if I kill enough of the Thunderpack and maybe break them and run them down, I will hit the Manticore. So that was on me. I was so focused on staying out of the ruins that I did not anticipate that. So that's my fault, and I might pay for that. We'll see what the Thunderpack do, though. Also, keep in mind, the Thunderpack are within 6 inches of the altar, so they have Fury, and yeah, that's awesome. In other news, the Night Bus charges the Chaff just to kill them, and yep, the Spectral Hunters, as expected, get in front of the Dancers to redirect them, and yeah, just die for the cause. In Magic, my opponent does get off. My opponent's list does have three arises, so my opponent does get off at least 2 on the ghouls. Now, here's a good sporting moment from my opponent. So I only had enough dice to stop one of the arises, and my opponent informed me that the arise from the Cadaver Wagon, the bounce spell, is actually an aura. So it would have affected the ghouls and the bat swarms. And my opponent let me use because I didn't know that at first, and my opponent didn't realize it until after he had cast it. And so my opponent let me decide, like, oh yeah, you obviously stopped the aura, so we played it that way. So that is a good sporting moment from my opponent that I want to shout out to. So anyway, I stopped the one arise, but he's still able to get off 2 other arises on ghouls here. So that is what it is. But I'm kind of hoping, like, well, maybe that helps the Thunderpack out and give them more combat res. Or give the Thunderpack more combat res to win. So we'll see. And yeah, going on to close combat. And this was pretty wild. Oh my goodness. So the Thunderpack go to town on the ghouls. They do a lot, but my opponent with the ghouls, I still am not making those armor saves, and the poisons that are killing me and the hatred on the ghouls. So my opponent does enough to kill off the other 3 models in the unit. And so he's able to get the overrun into the Manticore. He rolls the 10 he needed on Swift Stride. But to make matters tricky for my opponent is that I needed a 6 on minimized leadership to stick with the Thunderpack, and I got it. So from Discipline 10 down to Discipline 6, because I lost by 4. And yeah, the Thunderpack stick there, which is also interesting. So something to also note, so the Dread Acolytes just run through the Bat Swarms this time, no problem. With the new rules, if I was to reform them, or not just reform, but if I was to actually just pivot them, I cannot charge. And luckily, the Dread Acolytes are in the flank of the skeletons and can see the flank of this unit. So I had to stay there and just take the charge into that skeleton unit, which is still great. That's exactly where Dread Acolytes want to be. But that was the only play I had if I wanted the Dread Acolytes to charge. So that was something interesting. All right, so what you're seeing here is you see the auxiliaries go into the front of the skeletons. I'm just adding more bodies, more combat resolution. I need to pop this unit. Dread Acolytes into Flamp, as you said. So now I charge the spears into the flank of the Dark Coach, trying to like save this Manticore here. Not sure if that's the correct play here. Maybe I just say, you know what, I'm going to charge your Night Bus and prevent you from charging me, and then lock that unit in place for next turn. That way, on my next turn, hopefully I can charge the Dancers and my Thunder Pack, which, by the way, failed a re-rollable charge onto this Ghoul's unit flank. And I was not happy about that. So that sucked. So Thunderpack are exactly where you see there. But I kind of thought, well, if I charge the spear unit here, yes, I'll be inside general leadership, but I'm not going to get the minimized discipline because I'm probably going to lose that combat anyway from, well, you know, maybe I don't lose it. But because we calculate combat resolution at the beginning of the phase, my opponent gets 1, 2, 3 ranks in a banner plus whatever his vampire kills. And I only get, I'll get 4 ranks, a banner, and a charge, and then, you know, I have to go. I don't have really any AP aside from the assassin in this unit, so it's going to be a little difficult. Now, granted, I do get some lethal strike onto Swift Strike because spears, but honestly, like, that's, again, it's one of those on paper, like, looks good, but you're still relying on rolling 6s, and if you don't, then you don't get it, so meh. So anyway, this is the decision I made to charge into the flank of the Dark Coach, just to get its points, hopefully save the Manticore, and yeah, go from there. And of course you can see here that the Dancers of Yema charge the Spectral Hunters. Okay, close combat. So I start with this comment here. This picture isn't quite accurate, but essentially I charged in, crumbled the entire Fortitude unit, the big skeleton unit, with the Dread Acolytes, and ran into the flank of the Ghouls. So this unit here, the auxiliaries should just be facing straight forward into the wall. My opponent and I corrected that situation in a later picture. So they ran into the Ghouls. So now, yeah, that's looking pretty spicy there. So I'm probably going to get the Ghouls. I'm hoping that this Thunder Pack survives. And yes, you can see here the Dancers of Yema make quick work of the Spectral Hunters with the Assassin in there. Excuse me. And now are threatening the flank of the Knights. And surprise, the Thunder Pack does survive. Frustratingly to my opponent. And furthermore, to add insult to injury, the Dark Coach does, I think, a wound or two to the Manticore, but then the spears and the Manticore just crumble the Dark Coach easily. So, yep. So I got rid of all those units, and now I still have 1 Thunder Pack model left. Alright, going into my opponent's turn 5, you know, we decided that this maybe isn't the best play here, but I think we were just having some fun, and we wanted to see what would happen. So my opponent does choose to charge his Night Bus into the spear unit, and his hope is to just do enough damage and kill the altar to break the unit. Now, granted, it is it will be I think a full leadership on Discipline 10 if he doesn't kill enough with minimized. So that could be just very difficult to do. And so I think really in hindsight, when you're looking back at that move, you probably want to charge perhaps the Thunder Pack here to either make me decide to flee. And if I do decide to flee, then I lose the unit because they're below half strength, and that's, again, one of the new rules coming into effect. So if the unit is below half strength and decides to flee, or is fleeing, it is destroyed. So he can get the points for the Thunder Pack unit and then maybe redirect into one of my other units, such as the Dread Acolytes. either make it, if like forcing me to make another decision there. So yeah, I don't think this is necessarily the best play here, but who knows? Like, dice are dice. And so in the magic phase, he gets off a -1 resilience on the altar because he's trying to take the altar out with the vampire, but then I stop. Oh gosh, what do I stop? I stopped something else. I stopped. I don't even remember what I stopped, to be honest. I think he got the -1 resilience off. So, that being said, moving into close combat, and here's what happens. Well, first of all, if you notice, this sliver here can hit the corner of the manticore. And if he breaks me, he gets this unit most likely and hits my manticore, and he can still get the manticore, and I really don't have a good countercharge option here, and he's getting a whole bunch of points, and he's getting his primary and secondary now, because then his night bus will be the one scoring, and he'll have 2 turns to do it. And that will tie the primary at least. So yeah, that's this could be a big move, right? So I decide, just because I don't issue any challenges, and then he doesn't issue any challenges, my opponent's vampire swings at the altar, and the asshole vampire only does 3 wounds to this thing. Yeah. My opponent rolled very poorly to kill the altar. I think he had a good chance of doing it. Rerolling hits, fury, wounding on 3s, and he failed to wound with his hits, and he didn't roll. I think he rolled 1 fury, and he had like 2 misses and rolled 1 fury, so it was just not a good showing for the vampire. And then my assassin goes, and I strike at the Barrow King. And so the assassin takes out the Barrow King. And then the spears in the altar kill a few models in the back rank, but my opponent doesn't kill enough to really do anything, and he's not able to take down the altar. So I lose by, I think I lose by 3. Now, I think we did this a bit wrong. I lost by 3. The altar is stubborn. And so I was rolling on an 8 with a minimized discipline check, because with stubborn, the new rules for stubborn is you just half the result. So 3 just in this case goes to 1.5, so that would be 2, rounding up. Which I had more ranks than him, so I think I should have actually gotten my full leadership check on discipline 10 minimized. But if you know the answer to that, you can always comment in the comment section below. Always generally appreciated. And then for my opponent reminds me, but wait, my Barrow King, in fact, the whole unit has dying blow. Surprised I don't get any lethal strikes off, by the way, with the spears. So I kill a couple knights, and then his Barrow, it took both a king and an extra attack to kill the assassin, but he does end up killing the assassin. I roll the check to stick, and I stuck. I'm sorry, James, but yeah. So the spears held, even with losing the assassin. The assassin and the Barrow King killed each other, which I think was pretty cool. So that being said, it's turn 5. It's the end of turn 5. I've won the primary. I'm going to win my secondary. It's a foregone conclusion. My opponent decides to concede the game at this rate. So there you have it. Good game. Well played. And that was a lot of fun. And there you have it, folks. It is a victory for the Dread Elves. It is a 19-1 on points, +3 for the primary. I think we played +1 for the secondary. There might be an option to play it as +2. I can't remember if that's in the season pack or not, but I think we did +1. So that made it a 19-1. I came in with 2,359 points. And my opponent came in only at 560 points.
You can see below that I lost the Assassin, the Shadow Riders, and half points for the Thunder Pack. And then I was able to take from my opponent the Barrow King, the Ghouls, Skeletons, Bat Swarms, Cadaver Wagon, Dark Coach, Spectral Hunters, and Phantom Hosts. So there you have it. And rounding things off with the post-game thoughts here. On the macro side of things, yeah, I was happy to get first turn and take board control. And then from there I can kind of dictate my opponent's movement and how much he wants to come towards me. So I was happy with my patience in that regard because, to be honest, I can usually be rather impetuous as a player and just be like, screw it, let's charge. Now, I knew it in advance that it would be difficult for my opponent to win the primary, and so that proved to be the point. So, again, I didn't need to push immediately. It took some getting used to managing the different aura effects, like from the altar and the manticore. So it was a lot of measuring, making sure that the Thunder Pack units were within fury range, because they have innate hatred, by the way, surprise, of the altar, which that's the thing that just makes them like over the top, I think, is being able to benefit from the altar's fury bubble and have just innate hatred, and then couple that with dying blow, which I'll get into more. So then the style of the list for me, like this type of list, the Thunder Pack list, it definitely feels more like a team tournament list than singles, because I do think there are some inherent weaknesses. It's lacking a lot of AP, and the Manticore build could just be like better. That's on me though. Yeah, because it's lacking that AP. The only AP it really has comes from the Assassins at AP3 and the Manticore at AP3 with the Great Weapon, who is like effectively distracting with offense defense 10, which is awesome. But it's just and then like I think I could have done a better job just utilizing the board for my deployment. I deployed in a way where I probably could have utilized that chokehold a bit better, where I didn't have to do those like silly reforms with the dancers the whole time, in the beginning at least, and just kind of shift my whole deployment over to the right side, but still utilizing that impassable terrain. So I think I could have done a better job there. And like I said in micro things, I missed in a way, like the dancers were misdeployed, like consciously, to cover that flank, but it sacrificed their ability to cut through the fortitude in the center. And then, yeah, just mistakes were made with the Manticore, just allowing those overruns. So just being careful about if I'm using the Manticore as a babysitter for the Thunder Pack, and then like making sure nothing cheeky like that happens. I think maybe I got a bit lucky with my Chaff surviving the Soul Blight. My opponent, again, rolled poorly, but again, when you're only rolling like 1d6, if I pass my leadership test, he may cause a panic for sure, but it's not guaranteed. But then I think my opponent, he made the mistake, like technically it's a mistake of charging the spears in the end. I think he still had 2 turns to get more points from the list and still be a threat with the Night Bus. But we really just wanted to see like what would happen as well. And we were just testing out, like had, for example, I failed my non-rerollable break check, even though it is minimized at courage. I keep saying discipline, courage 10. That actually would have been a massive point swing. So perhaps it's worth the risk at that rate. If again, in a team setting, if you're trying to go big or go home sort of thing, then like you go for it. But then again, in the micro things, like, yeah, the Thunder Pack plus the Altar and the Beastmaster combo of Dying Blow is so good. Like, I did not need magic in the phase. I get the rerolls to hit. I get the Fury to combo with the rerolls to hit. And then I do not care about, like, whether or not my opponent goes first or not. I still get all my attacks. And it just mitigates any damage coming back on the Thunder Pack. Not to mention, there's still Resilience 5. with 3 wounds each, so 18 wound health pool, so they're actually a fairly tough unit to get through. Oh, and then by the way, if I did it correctly, then they're like, if they happen to lose combat, they're still minimized break check. They still get the reroll charges, like in case Scent of Blood gets activated by the auxiliaries, so, or other combats. I mean, it's just really good. Like, I love it. It was, again, but you still have to play fairly compact with the list if you want to benefit from that whole aura situation from the Altar of Nob. But like, I had fun. It felt dirty. Honestly, it felt dirty. So anyway, those are my thoughts there. And once again, thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it if you've made it all the way through. Rock on, y'all are rock stars. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you are indeed thunderstruck. That being said, ciao ciao for now, y'all.